We're continuing to build out our education plan page, and the next section that we're looking at is the scholarships, work study, and grants section. Before we jump into coding this out, what I'd like to point out are a couple things so we can make sure that we're following the structure that we want in our DOM to make this page look good. So a couple things. One is this section gets that light gray background that we've used before, and this will separate it out from the other two sections that we've created. Again, you don't have to use this technique if you don't want to. If it doesn't work for your design, then make it work for you. That's kind of the cool thing about building websites and portfolios and things like that, is you can totally make it unique to you. So besides the light gray background, we have a heading 2 that starts out this section, and then from there we have 1, 2, 3, 4 subheadings, 4 H3s that focus on a different type of scholarship or way to pay for school. So the reason why I want to point that out is because each one of these needs to be a row in our design. So our H2 will be a row, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we need 5 rows in this design. So let's get started. I'm going to tab over to Dreamweaver and locate that last section that we just built with the infographic. So I need to find that closing main tag at the very end. So this should light up main class main top at the top there. That's showcasing that that's wrapping that section. So I'm going to hit the enter return key at the end of that and back that off so I'm back on the same level, and left caret main class main, and we are adding the light gray BG secondary class to that main. So then hit the right caret and then hit the enter return key a couple times, and I'm backing that off so it's on the same level, and then moving my cursor up and then tabbing in. So again, we're going to start right off with a div class of row and close that out, enter return, move my cursor up and then tab in, and inside of this row we get our H2, which is going to head out with scholarships, work study, and ampersand. I'm loving the ampersand symbol lately, and grants. Okay, so that's the only thing that's going to go in that row, and then we're going to locate the closing div tag or closing div of that row and hit the enter return key. Now remember, we have 4 more rows to put in. We just put in the first row. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build out each one of these rows, copy and paste them so that way I don't forget to put them in, and then it'll save me some time there rather than writing this out, typing it out. So left caret div class row, and then close that out, and then hit the enter return key a couple of times, and then tab in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab that little snippet, right, opening and closing div tag, and then copy and paste that 3 more times. So I have 5 rows total from that overall section, but I copied and pasted 4 more rows. Okay, so then in that first row, place my cursor right up there in that first row, we're going to highlight the Crater Foundation Scholarship, which if you apply, everyone who applies gets a minimum of $500 through the Crater Foundation. It's a great organization. Can't talk enough about them. Close that out. So the cap lock's on, the Crater Foundation. And what we'd like you to do is put in a little bit of a paragraph about what the Crater Foundation is, like that kind of thing, like who maybe not who runs it, but just a brief description of what it is and how many, what you hope to gain or what you hope to earn from them. You can find out a little information by going to their website, which is linked right off of the Biz website, and look for the Crater Foundation link there. So I'm going to hit the enter return key and then type in a paragraph here, and then I'm just going to copy my lorem ipsum text. So, something you might highlight here is that this is for, Crater graduates, and any Crater graduate who applies for Crater Foundation Scholarship gets one at a minimum of $500, and they go all the way up to $4,000 or $5,000. And they've been giving out scholarships for the last 27 years, and they've given out over $4.4 million worth of scholarships. So it's a pretty great organization. So that's one thing that you definitely want to highlight. Now, after that paragraph, we want to put in a section here that talks about eligibility requirements for each of these scholarships, because we don't want to make it seem as if you just found these scholarships and you might just be eligible just because you found them. We want to make sure that you're finding scholarships that you are eligible for, so that you've researched that part of this section. So after that paragraph tag, hit the enter return key and then type in a left caret, and we're going to make this an H6. So that's going to be our final heading that we will style for our portfolio. We've pretty much run the gamut of all of our headings here. And so what I want to put in here is eligibility requirements. We could have just used like a bold tag or something like that, but we're going to go with an H6. And then after that, you're going to want to find what those eligibility requirements for. So like with the Creator Foundation, really their requirements are you apply for one, and if you're going to college, you get a scholarship. Now, other scholarships might have different requirements. So with that one, this one's pretty easy. You're just going to put in there, if you apply, or if I apply, I'll get one, at least $500. Then they don't, you don't have to have a certain GPA. You don't have to have so many community service hours. You literally just have to graduate from Creator High School. Okay, then in the next section, we're going to look at a specific scholarship that might come from the actual school that you are applying to. And one of the scholarships that everyone is basically put into the running. So when you apply to Oregon State, or when you apply to U of O, you put in a bunch of information. One of the things that you put in is your SAT scores and your GPA. And one of those two things, you basically have to have high GPA or high SAT scores to qualify for the presidential scholarship. So that's not everyone. So in this case, if you don't think you qualify for that, when you do some research other scholarships that your school offers and something that you might be eligible for. But I'm just highlighting the presidential scholarship because that's the one that comes to my mind right away, because I know most schools have this scholarship, and I know what the requirements are. So that's why I put that one in there, highlight it, and it's also a really great scholarship too. It's a big value. It's a big dollar scholarship. It's like $4,000, $5,000 compared to, say, $1,000 of some other scholarships that some schools offer. Okay, so what is this presidential scholarship? You should find out. Where did it come from? Why do we have it? Or why did the school offer it? I think that's really important. Usually you can find a real brief 1-sentence, 2-sentence description of these and just copy and paste that directly from the website or wherever you found that information right into this section. Okay, and then same thing, we want to put in eligibility requirements. So that's an H6, and in fact what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste that from above. So Control-C, Command-C, and paste that right in there. And then what are those eligibility requirements? I'm just going to copy and paste to save some time for our tutorial. Okay, so that's the presidential scholarship there. That is the second row of information. And then the third row, this is oftentimes one that students don't think about. And I'm going to start this off with an H3, and looks like my caps locks are on again. So let me delete that and fix. Hello. Getting all kind of sideways there on my code. There we go. So H3. So this one is one that students don't often think about, but many colleges offer, and that's what's called work study. Now, essentially, work study is a program where you basically apply. It's kind of like a job, and it's a campus job. And a lot of times these campus jobs can vary. Sometimes it might be like you're working in the bookstore. You might be working, landscaping and doing things like that. It might be tutoring services. It might be working in the computer lab. Whatever it might be, work study is often offered at campuses for a way to supplement your income. So it's not necessarily free money, but a lot of times these campus jobs are really great jobs because They're almost always part-time, so they're always low hours. So they might be 20, 25 hours a week or something like that. And a lot of times they're set up so that if you need to study or you can study, you can while you're working at the same time. Not in every case, but a lot of the scheduling is very flexible, and it's a great way, especially if you're a freshman and you're living on campus and you don't have a way to, say, drive off of campus, to get a job. This is a way to supplement your income as well. So really cool. Should look into that, and most college campuses will have something on there, some type of information that you can find. You may not find all of the information that I'm going to put in here in terms of kind of laying this out for this section. For instance, this next section or this next paragraph, I have pay and or say, like, maybe we say pay and or hours a week. These may not be listed on the website that you find because they might vary from job to job, and hours and availability and all that kind of stuff. If you can't find it, don't worry about that. Go ahead and leave that off. But what we do absolutely want to have is that eligibility requirement thing, and that's usually, like, how do you apply and all that kind of stuff. If eligibility requirements doesn't work, if you can't find something that you can use in that section, you might just put in there, this is how you apply for work study. This is the process. I would imagine that every school is going to have some type of way for it to show you, like, that this is how you can basically apply to work on campus. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next section, which is our last one, and this is the Pell Grant. So let's go ahead and put in an H3. And we are going to write in Pell Grant. Now, a grant is like a scholarship, only it's slightly different. Sometimes it's academic based, but a lot of times grants end up being need based. And what's cool about grants is that you don't have to pay them back. And the Pell Grant is a federal grant that is all about need. And it's a great grant, and there is sometimes there are maximum amounts that you can get, and oftentimes Pell Grants are not renewable. Sometimes it's just like a one-time deal. So what you need to do is look up the description of what it is, what it entails. Like, just like we just did before, I'm adding some lorem ipsum text there as well. And you need to determine what the maximum amount is allowed for you in terms of what this is. A lot of times it's described in the website. If it's not, again, don't worry about it. Okay. What we're after here is that you are looking at these types of options to help supplement your funding for school. Okay. Same thing for eligibility requirements. So grab that. I'm going to copy and paste it for the purpose of this tutorial, and it's going to go right underneath that maximum amount section. I'm going to save that, and so let's take a look at how it looks. Tab over to Chrome here, and I'm on the mockup, so let's go back over to our preview and scroll down, and there we go. So it's nicely spaced out. Oh, forgot something. We've got our H6 here, and it is really tiny, and it's slammed up against the edge there because I haven't addressed the styling of that H6 tag. So I'm glad we previewed that first. So let's tab back over to Dreamweaver and then jump into our style sheet and locate where our H5 is. Let's scroll up because we're going to want to start with the mobile version first. So we're going to add, place my cursor right at the end of that closing curly brace after main 5, H5. So dot main H6, open up a curly brace. And then padding wise, we're going to give it the same treatment as the others, so 0 and 2 pixels. So it just barely spaces it away from the left and right edges of the tube. And then we want to make our font size here a little bit bigger than what the default font size is for the H6. So we're going to do 0.85 rem. And we're going to go ahead and leave it at that same default bold setting. So that's really, we're just adjusting the padding and the font size of that. And then we're going to scroll down and locate the desktop mobile or desktop media query, and then place our cursor at the end of that H5 curly brace. Enter return dot main. Main H6. There you go. Open up a curly brace. Padding wise, we're going to do the same thing, 0 and 5 pixels as we do in with the other ones. And then we are also going to increase the font size from there to 1 rem. So it looks like it's just like a regular part of our text. So let's tab over to Chrome and scroll down. And there we go. So eligibility requirements is in bold, and it's the same size as the rest of our text. So that's looking pretty good. All right, so we need to finish out this page with a feature section down below that we'll use kind of the same technique that we did on our home page at the bottom. That will go to, that'll give us some information about student loans, and will take us to those websites. So if we want to find out more information about student loans, we can. But you're just going to give us a little brief introduction in those call-outs, that featured section about those 3 types of student loans. So we're almost finished with this page, and on to the next tutorial.